as a committee, you know, this is accountability committee. And how we transact here, we transact on proof. Proof, and I think your company secretary must be aware. Proof is documentary in most cases. So first validate that, because when you mention that your role is to do this, but again from your communication, you are doing the roles of the CEO. So then what is your appointment? What is your current appointment as you? Any supportive document?
Thank you very much. As I said, when I came here, I came for a 6 months period. After working in the airline for a few months and realizing what type of problems we have, and as the CEO of Uganda Airlines, I think we can provide that document if necessary. I have taken a full-time job to do the job now.
So the appointing instrument is you have it, the company secretary?
Chair, we didn't carry it, but we can provide a copy.
Yeah, so we need a copy of his current status. And he has verbally informed us, but we shall need the proper chronology. You mentioned about some grounded aircrafts, some planned for lease, among others. With certainty, how many routes do you have now, the functional routes?
We have 15. Dubai is temporarily suspended. Kinshasa is temporarily suspended. It is 15. Abuja has also already been suspended. And by November...
What was the reason for Abuja suspension?
A market condition operating nearby stations. Abuja and Lagos didn't make sense at the time. But with the start of Kigali and Accra will return to 17, Kinshasa would bring us back to 18, and Dubai will take us to 19. And I think by early next year we'll have more African destinations added.
So could you give us, what are these 18? Apart from the suspended ones, what are the others?
The others are Nairobi, Mombasa, Dar es Salaam, Kilimanjaro, Zanzibar, Harare, Lusaka, Johannesburg, Lagos, Mogadishu, Joburg. These are the others. And Bujumbura.
Okay.
And Juba.
And you said for the new aircrafts you have ordered, said deliveries 2032 and one 2036. That's 7 to 8 years.
Yes.
2033. That's how many years? 7 to 8 years.
6 years and 7 years.
6 years.
The 737s, 6 years, and the 787, 7 years.
Then you mentioned about a training that also require training for Civil Aviation Authority. Yeah. Have you formally liaised with the Civil Aviation Authority?
Yes.
And what is the position?
They will be happy to take it.
They will be happy to take it.
It is normal. It is an aviation. They are a regulatory. They cannot regulate what they don't know. So they are waiting for the training to start.
Okay.
And that is done by Boeing as part of the purchase agreement. The training.
Okay.
Explanation of the CEO. There are fears that we may have a time when most of the planes will be grounded. Because of the engine issues and other related matters. Which assurance are you giving to us that since you're expecting a new fleet in 2032 and 2033, that we may not have a collapse of the institution as we are speaking?
We have done a restructuring of the airline. We have come up with a new structure which was already approved by the board.
You have a copy of the structure?
We can supply that.
Please assist us with this new structure.
What we did is, in addition to the existing structure, we added some new positions. I will tell you what those new
what
positions.
Are those? And who are occupying
The
them?
current approved, the already approved consisted of Chief Operating Officer, Chief Commercial Officer, Chief Financial Officer, Chief Legal Officer, and the HR and the maintenance organization. What we did is, in the new one, we kept all of them and added one position of customer services, Chief Customer Services Officer. The airline handled customer service duties in different sections. Some underground services, some under sales. There was no properly coordinated customer service department that will speak for the customer, that will check what is happening. So we create a customer services department to emphasize that we are in a service organization, that these are the things that we do. For example, the airline did not have a catering department. We were dependent on others to do catering. The airline did not have a full-fledged ground handling. Yes, we created a ground services department, but we are using the warehouse of others. We are not self-sufficient. We don't, as an airline, we should have a hangar where we can maintain our airplane. We have no hangar where to maintain our airplane. We talk of maintenance organization without a maintenance facility. We are building all this, and that required a change in the way we work. We created an organization that will allow us. Planning was done by different departments. Commercial plans its own, maintenance plans its own, management decides what to do. Now we have a proper planning organization that will say, this airline is here today, 5 years from today it will be here, these are the number of people it requires, these are the infrastructure that the airline requires, these are the capital requirement that the airline has. All this has to be planned. It cannot be done casually. If you do it casually, you will have a casual problem. So we are trying to structure it in such a way that it will stand the pressure of the market. When I came here, I was requested by the government to help stabilize the airline, and at the same time to also help find a CEO for the position of CEO Uganda Airlines. That was my mission when I came here. And so what I did is I started on the stabilization of the airline. I think to be able to talk about stabilization, first of all, we'll have to understand where the airline was at the time I found it. The government of Uganda bought 6 airplanes for Uganda Airlines. 4 of them are CRJ 900s, 2 of them are A330 Neos. These are the property of Uganda Airlines. At the time, the airline also had a wet-leased airplane, an A320, to support the operation. So totally, 7 airplanes were to be in the operation of the airline. 6 owned, 1 leased. When I came, one of the CRJs was already grounded due to engine problem from November 2025. And one A330 was also grounded due to lack of engine. So out of the 6, 2 of the airplanes were already grounded. That is about a third of the airline fleet. But if you look at it from the capacity point of view, it was nearly 60-70% of the capacity of the airline was cut off. As if that was not enough, the second A330 that was still operating had limited hours on one of the engines. And it was operating under boroscope inspection, and in a matter of a month, that again went out of service. So this meant 80% of the capacity of the airline was grounded at that point. And the reason why these airplanes were grounded is because of engine problem. And let me first explain what happened on the A330s. The A330, the airplane is Airbus. The engine manufacturer is a company called Rolls-Royce. We had, as Uganda Airlines, a contract with Rolls-Royce to maintain the engines on these airplanes. Unfortunately, due to shortage of cash, the payments were not made regularly to Rolls-Royce. So Rolls-Royce wrote a letter in October 2025 to say they have cut off the contract for the maintenance of the Rolls-Royce engine. No parts, no maintenance, no service. It's unfortunate the government, through the airline, paid some of that debt, but Rolls-Royce refused to recommence servicing the engines. And that is what led to the grounding of the airplanes. After I came, we started talking to Rolls-Royce. We got into a fierce battle. Even though we did not pay on time, we have paid the accumulated sum of money. Therefore, you have to reinstate the service. We had 2-3 months of fighting, went higher within the organization. We even involved Airbus to talk to Rolls-Royce on our behalf, but they were not forthcoming. So both airplanes were grounded. What did we do? We leased a temporary, for a period of 1 year, a 787, so that will not completely disappear from the international market. And in the meantime, we robbed one on each airplane. Each airplane had one good engine and one bad engine. So instead of stopping both airplanes, we robbed the good engine from one of them and installed it on the other, and continued to at least operate one A330. And unfortunately, also during the time, the Middle East war started, the Iran war. So operation to Dubai was suspended. So that one airplane could do both UK and India, which are the long haul operation of the airline. So we could manage with that one airplane. Gradually, after a lot of back and forth discussion, after even trying to go to court with Rolls-Royce, we managed to come to a settlement. Whatever outstanding money there was, about $9 million, we paid to Rolls-Royce. They refused to to take the engines that we removed from the airplane for repair. So to keep the airplane flying, we had to buy a spare engine. We bought a spare engine. We settled that amount. Now we agreed for them to reinstate the service. And this week, the two engines that were on the grounded airplanes were removed from the airplane and are being sent to Rolls-Royce plant in Singapore for maintenance. So it will take 120 to 125 days to maintain and to repair and return those engines. So the second A330, which is grounded, will not come into service until possibly January or latest February 2027. And what happens? The A330 that is flying today will have a limitation. We'll have to go for maintenance sometime in January. So in order not to completely cut ourselves off, we'll hold this airplane that is flying until the other A330 comes, and then we'll release it for about 1 month. By March, we'll have both airplanes flying, which will help us improve our to start Dubai again, and to increase frequency to Bombay and to London. That is as far as the A330 is concerned. The CRJ is still grounded. As I said, originally it was grounded because one engine was not operating. That engine was sent to the States for repair. It is on its way back after repair. But unfortunately, when that engine was under repair, another engine had a problem on another aircraft. Instead of stopping the aircraft, we robbed the engine from that also. And so even if the new engine, if the repaired engine arrives tomorrow morning, that aircraft will not be flying until we get another engine. So that is basically where the airline was and where it is. What do we want to do? How do we get out of it? First of all, I would say congratulations for nomination to the Parliament, and also for the appointment to this committee. On Monday, at around 12:29 in the afternoon, we received a letter that was sent by Parliament on the 19th. But the letter reached us, as you can see, at 12:29 on Monday, which means after he closed the meeting. And as soon as we received it, and it is signed, and the delivering office knew that we only received it in the afternoon on Monday, to be here at 8 in the morning. So there is no way that Uganda Airlines, being a company of Uganda, would under any circumstances refuse to show up when called by the committee or by the Parliament. So please understand us that we did not stay away from the meeting, but we were not told about it until the meeting was finished. And we wrote immediately when we received when we saw this, we wrote a letter to say, sorry, we just received it. So with that, I think we cleared the air.
The new accounting officer or the chief executive has appeared new from the nature of his appointment, and we are considering the Auditor General's report for the year ended 2025. Now, in the circumstances, you may be a useful witness to assist the committee in our interrogation of the Auditor General's report. Save that, for all intent and purposes, the accounting officer, as of now, is the lead and is in the lead of the team. But to avoid several forth and back invitations, we thought it wise that we invite you once. Ordinarily, would have invited them first and then invited you later. But we thought it is wiser, we invite you once, we have the interaction with you as a team. So I wanted to clear that also. I think within the same day we received a letter after the meeting and after our issuance of summons from Uganda Airlines, alluding to the fact that they had received the invitation late and that they are willing to appear today. I want to clear this and pronounce ourselves, and equally to hear the pronouncement from Uganda Airlines, the basis of their inability to attend, much as we received the letter, but it was outside our meeting time. That notwithstanding, now that you are here, I will consider that at a later note. But only continue to pronounce and remind the accounting officers to always adhere to our invitations, and where you have reasons to seek for another date, you avail us your reasons in time, in writing, so that we don't consider your non-attendance as abscondment or disrespect to the committee, that we may at one stage interpret as contempt to parliamentary proceedings. And we have since, as COSASE, invited ourselves to review our appreciation of the rules as to whether an accounting officer or the entity so invited that doesn't notify us or request in advance for adjournment, Parliament continue to facilitate the committee and constitute a sitting if such an entity wouldn't be a qualified case to take on the accounting officer or the entity for any arising loss.
Considering the fact that the airline has the potential to grow, and I will tell this parliament, as a person who has spent 60 years in aviation, I see the potential. The potential of this country is big as an aviation operator. So, after discussing it with the government, we managed to order 4737 MAX and 4787 -9. These airplanes, we ordered it from Boeing. The fact that we ordered it today does not mean we'll get it in 6 months or 1 year or so. The 737s will start coming in 2032. This is advance you need to order airplane. In 2032. All the 4 airplanes will be delivered in 2032. And the 787s We ordered 4 of them, and all of them will be delivered in 2033. So these are airplanes that will come at that time. But we need to prepare the market for that today. So what do we do to fill the gap after the A330 is made to fly? And once the engines are installed and it comes back to operate in Uganda Airlines system, for 3 years we are good to go. So it will help us deepen the London routes, deepen the Bombay routes, deepen. We are not going to go into another long haul until we are sure we have all the necessary equipment. But we have to build connectivity at Entebbe, build Entebbe as a hub. To do that, we need smaller airplane, and we are planning to dry lease if possible. And I may have to explain the difference between dry lease and wet lease. Wet lease means we go out and get an airplane from another airline. And that airline provides the airplane, the insurance on that airplane, the crew that operate that airplane, and the maintenance of that airplane. All we do is we put the passengers in, we put the fuel that is required, we operate the flight. This is it is an expensive thing because you hire almost everything. In a dry lease, it is different. You only lease the airplane from them, you supply your own crew, you buy your own insurance, you do your own maintenance, or you get somebody else to do the maintenance for you if you are not ready. It is a cheaper option. Today we have a 737 on a wet lease. We would want to shift that to a dry lease by November when this one expires. But there are challenges. One, that it has to be type certified by Uganda Civil Aviation before we can go for a dry lease. And Uganda Civil Aviation has to be prepared to do an oversight over that type of airplane. So training of Uganda Civil Aviation inspectors will have to take place before we get an airplane. Training of our own people will also have to take place. So by November, we are hoping it will be done. By the way, as a part of the purchase agreement with Boeing, they will train both the Uganda airline team and Uganda Civil Aviation team. And they will do the liaising for the certification. It has already started. Hopefully it will be ready by November. If it is not ready by November, we'll be forced to continue with a wait list for another 3-4 months until this is ready. But in order to build network connectivity through Entebbe and build Entebbe into hub, we have to operate to more African countries, collect traffic for the long haul. That is why we'll be starting Rwanda operation in November, Accra operation on 27th of October, so that we build the network. You know, when you operate short haul, the cost is not that much. Long haul is very expensive. To operate 1 hour on a wide body is something like $18,000, $19,000, $20,000. Whereas the short haul, probably you cover it with $2,000, $3,000. So your short haul will have to be good before you think of a long haul. And your short haul will have to feed into that. So we have improved schedule connectivity even with what we have today. For example, today we had something like 80 passengers coming from Harare Lusaka. Out of those, 44 of them were going to Bombay. Connectivity through Entebbe has to improve. We did the same thing from Nigeria. We did the same thing from South Africa. We are building the traffic that will go through Entebbe without entering Entebbe, so that we get the volume that is required. So with that, I think we will build a better future for the airline.
We are seeing the Otajeno citing a continuous trend of losses from 2023. The Otajeno quotes a loss of 323.598 billion for 2023, 2024, a loss of 231.5884 billion, and for the year 2024-2025, the Otajeno puts the assessment of loss at 230.816 billion. Now, looking at the magnitude, according to the assessment of the Otajeno, the debt increased from 20.86 to 29.92%. Now that forms a critical part of Otajeno observation and should inform your preparedness to respond. Of course, of recent we have noted that whereas we receive responses from accounting officer, in several occasions they choose what areas to respond to. So we highlight some of these areas to inform your communication to the committee and to inform our interrogation away from any response that may have captured or not captured some of those positions. Also, the Auditor General reveals that government of Uganda invested 1.984 trillion in Uganda Airline Company. But as of 2024-2025, what was recognized as issued share capital for Uganda government was 200 million shillings. Now, that discrepancy made a critical part of the Otajeno's observation. And in terms of areas, the accumulated and increased areas of 235.70 billion, an increase by 64.012 billion from the previous year. Now, the Otajeno further observes lack of timely post-lease closure and reconciliation for A320 wait lease agreement, citing that there is no end-of-year assessment of recovery and possibility of recovery and expected credit loss. This is, I think, an arrangement with Global Airways South Africa, as well, where the issue of performance security deposit is mentioned as not classified whether refundable, forfeited, or impaired. Now, these are observations of the Otajeno. Then the unbalanced cash collections at Juba country office, that money remains in cash and is not banked, which was questioned by the Auditor General. There is an observation on unsupported aviation fuel suppliers, especially to do with the penalties, and the Auditor General is creating a penalty of USD 1.782 million. That is, there is no document, no justification, no proof that the same is accurate. Then there is a critical concern on aviation fuel from supplier without contracts. This is as of 2024, 2025, according to the Auditor General. And failure to plan and dispose of assets, the budget performance against approved revenue was also questioned by the Auditor General. The CRJ fleet 900, where upon inspection 5X KNP was mentioned to be grounded, and the Auditor General observed that this reduces effective availability of CRJ 900, and that may occasion flight interruptions. And they also quoted aspect on spare parts, and as I conclude in what is cited by the Auditor General, the aspect of domestic areas, and specifically 1.6 billion as mentioned as questionable and unsupported or irregular expenditure on global as questionable expenditure. Now that you are here, these are critical observations by the Auditor General. And with that summary, I guess the former accounting officer was also taking note. But procedurally, I want to proceed and invite the current accounting officer, the chief executive officer. You can make your opening remarks, the overview of the airline, and later assist us to guide on how we proceed to answer the several observations within the Auditor General's report.
Even with the reduced number of aircraft, we tried to maintain and keep to our schedule. And I think the schedule has improved. Our schedule performance has improved. Delays have reduced. Cancellations have been kept to the minimum. On top of that, when the wait list contract of the A320 expired, we waited until it expires. When it expired, we returned it because it was a bit expensive. We got another 737 at a lower price, saving good money for the airline, and we are now continuing with 3 CRJs, 1 A330 and 1 737. That's what we are using today. And as we go, when the A330 returns, and hopefully by then the situation with Ebola, because of Ebola, we have already suspended Kinshasa. We don't operate to Kinshasa now. When that restriction is lifted, we want to go back to Kinshasa. We would also want to start operation to Dubai, because today UAE, because of Ebola, suspended visa, and if anybody who has come to Uganda or passed through Uganda cannot go to UAE, there is no point for us to operate to Dubai. But when this is lifted, we'll go back to Dubai. That is where we are.
One, Chair, I also want to thank the current CEO. I don't know his names, but I'm told he's an Ethiopian. Not so? So when you say, I welcome you to that office, I congratulate upon assuming office. Mr. Chairman, first of all, when you carefully listen to what the current CEO has elaborated on this morning, he's showing you challenges he inherited from the previous administrator. This entity has spent 5 years without appearing in the past parliament, because by that time I think I will find out, shall be corrected, the first report we had from them was not read in parliament. Of course, whatever manipulation occurred, that is between the one who was governing and the one we worked with. Hence, having killed the oversight role and the accountability scrutinization of this committee. And Mr. Chairman, we want to learn, when we were buying these aircrafts, I was in this parliament. It never took 5 years to bring them. We need to learn from the current CEO, who has a country where there are over 100 planes. Is it in practice that once you want to procure new crafts, you must have 5 years to come? Because by 2031, I would be out of this parliament. So you will be lucky I will not be here to be, maybe even I will not have been on this committee.
But my advice to the CEO and the senior management, don't be excited and go overboard, because apparently you're operating at a crisis. But now if you say, you have told us clearly that you expect new aircraft in about 8 years to come, also, or 7. And if you want to operate in all these routes and yet you have a crisis, most of the aircrafts are grounded, as you have stated already. It will be, I think along the way, there will be a disappointment again to the customers, because you are relying on third parties of which you can't guarantee that you will perfect 100% to serve them. So to me, my humble request is that you would work within, while knowing that in 8 years' time, that's when you will leave. Because apparently you are not even at break even.
Yes and no. Yes, because unlike cars, airplanes work in a different way. Parts that are installed in an aircraft some of them are limited by time. This part at this point on the engine can be useful for so many hours. Even if that part is still good, you have to remove it and it has to go through another check. You don't wait until it fails. Okay? So there are parts that you change when they fail, but there are parts that are time controlled and which you would have to handle. Were these airplanes too old? These airplanes were bought brand new. They were brand new. 7 years. Oh, by the way, it is our 7th year today. So wish us good luck on this anniversary. 7 years for an aircraft is a very young age. A very young age. Both for the CRJ and for the S330. This is a very young age. The problem is, on the CRJ, either it is due to operational, either due to the climatic conditions, the engine failed before its time. It could have served for a longer period, but it happens in anything mechanical. Some fail earlier than anticipated. It is quite possible. On the A330, the issue was contractual. We contracted engine maintenance, engine part provision, everything to Rolls-Royce. Unfortunately, since we were not regular in our payment, Rolls-Royce cancelled that. If they did not cancel that, it would have been their responsibility to fix these engines. Why did the airline fail to pay? it is clearly marked in the audit report also. The running capital was never enough. It was not paid on time. So what the finance did was, they have $100 and they have a date of $150. They pay some, they don't pay some. It so happened some of the contractual obligations of Rolls-Royce was not paid according to the agreement. Therefore, Rolls-Royce decided not to provide part and service to the airline. So it is not that the airplane was bad, it's not that the engine was bad, it is the contractual obligations that we did not fulfill which caused us a problem. Beyond this, there is something that I will touch